Hello and welcome, this is TV Papua News of January 2014. Showing you this time EU Parliament hearing on the access and human rights abuses in West Papua. Foreign ministers of the Melanesian Spearhead Group visit West Papua, tension still on the rise in Puncak Jaya region, and political prisoners interviewed in Indonesian prison.
EU Parliament hearing on the access and human rights abuses in West Papua. On Thursday, the 23rd of January, in Brussels, the EU Parliament has held a hearing on the current situation in West Papua. A large number of human rights NGOs has sent letters to the subcommittee's members, on which the chair of the meeting gave an overview. One important subject was the press freedom and the safety of the journalists.
And next speaker, Mr. Victor Mambor.
Thank you. The biggest tragedy is when the state buries freedom of the press. No democratic country can be without freedom of the press. Generally, freedom of the press as a fundamental aspect of freedom of expression in Indonesia varies in different circumstances. In Jakarta, the law number 14 of 1999 on the regarding media and press as well as citizens can use that law consistently in many parts of Indonesia. Journalists, mass media and the public can benefit from the press law. However, media and civil society in Papua cannot get the benefits from this law. In the last 3 years, the Alliance of Independent Journalists, Jayapura, documented that intimidation and violence against journalists and mass media there increased significantly. 7 cases on 2011, 12 cases on 2012, and 22 cases in 2013. Murder and attempted murder against journalists occurred twice in the last 5 years. In 2010, Ardian Samatrais, tabloid Jubi journalist, was killed by drowning to the river after he published an investigative report on illegal logging.
For example, the Asian Human Rights Commission had published a report on the mass killings of thousands of Papuans during military operations against civilians in the Papuan highlands between 1977 and 1978. For this case, the Commission sees the criteria of genocide being fulfilled and calls for truth-building and accountability in respect of the victims and survivors. Civil society urges the Indonesian government to end the cycle of violence, impunity and conflict in Papua by ensuring the protection of human rights defenders from threats and intimidations, and by ensuring that perpetrators in the military and police are held criminally accountable according to international norms. Indonesia needs to provide access for UN human rights mechanisms. We call on the EU to urge the Indonesian government to provide free access to the UN Special Rapporteur on the freedom of expression and opinion to Papua.
Solidarity demonstrations were held in West Papua.
Foreign ministers of the Melanesian Spearhead Group visit West Papua. The Melanesian Spearhead Group decided on this visit during their 19th Leadership Summit in Caledonia, June last year, when they discussed the application for the membership of West Papua, done by the West Papua National Coalition for Liberation, known as the WPNCL. The visit was mainly to see if they also have the support of the indigenous West Papuans and to examine the human rights situation in West Papua for themselves. At the arrival, the delegation was escorted by guards of the Indonesian military, TNI, and the Indonesian police, Polri, who prevented all contact between the delegation and the Papuas. 46 peaceful protesters were arrested and released soon after. The delegation was taken to the Indonesian governmental officials and didn't meet with any civil society, pro-independence, church or any other groups concerned with the alleged human rights violations. Therefore, Vanuatu had boycotted the visit, as they believed that the Indonesian government hijacked the visit to promote economical relations between them and the MSG. However, the visit was still worthwhile, said WPNCL chairman Mr. Ondawame. They witnessed themselves Indonesian behavior. They have to build their own opinion on the visit, so I'm sure that Melanesia is Melanesian, not Indonesian. Melanesians have their own opinion on these matters, he said.
Tensions still on the rise in Puncak Jaya region. In the militarized area of Puncak Jaya, tension keeps on growing, creating inhuman living circumstances. In the search for members of the West Papua Liberation Army, the Indonesian army shootings occur regularly, creating a circle of violence that now even got into the church. When the Indonesian army interrupted the church ceremony and terrorized the community members, while several local and national sources confirmed this situation, representatives of the army say they have turned around the facts and that there were no violence incidents.
Political prisoners interviewed in Indonesian prison. Human rights activist Mr. Brown managed to interview several political prisoners within the Abipura prison. During the visitor hours, he interviewed Prime Minister Edison Claudius Waromi and President Fukurus Yaboysembut of the exiled and imprisoned interim government Federal Republic of West Papua, set up during the Third People Congress in 2011, where they declared the independence of West Papua. Also, he interviewed freedom activist Philip Karma, who got arrested after raising the Morning Star, West Papuan national flag, on Biak in 2004.
This was TV Papua News. We thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.